Okay, call it to order, Mayor.
Ma'am.
You can call it to order.
Okay. I want to thank everyone for attending this meeting, special call meeting of the City of South Fulton. I know that these are trying times for all of each and every one of us. However, I want you to remember exactly almost 3 years ago when this young, vibrant city was in the midst of a traumatic tornado. At that time, we embraced that struggle, and today we embrace another struggle and we move forward. I want to thank the employees of Fulton County, of South Fulton rather, for making these things possible and allowing us to be the city that we need to be. Our first responders, our staff members at City Hall, who are responsible for this meeting today. I hope with this technology that we have a better meeting, because we always learn from our mistakes. We're still providing services, and I want people to know that. We're still providing services and top-notch services as we see it. We will still have meetings, not just between us, but meetings to inform the public as to where we are and where we're going under these challenging times. So I hope everybody is being safe. I hope everybody is following the guidelines of shelter in place and also the guidelines for congregating in areas. So today, this is a special call meeting to talk about a few things that you need to know and that we need to discuss and that we need to make decisions on. So at this time, Ms. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yeah, perfect, yes.
Yes, roll call for today's special call meeting, April 2nd. Councilmember Rao.
Present.
Councilmember Gumbs.
Click on mute when I call your name. I just clicked on mute.
Councilmember Gumbs. Councilmember Willis.
Present.
Councilmember Gilliard.
Here.
Councilmember
Councilmember
Reeves.
Gomes is
Partially
present.
present.
Councilmember Khalid. Councilmember Khalid. He's present. Councilmember Baker. Absent. The mayor is here. Mr. O'Donnell, Mr. Donald, city manager, and Ms. Walker. You have a quorum.
And city clerk, this is Councilwoman Gomes. My
Yeah,
phone
I got
wasn't
you.
unmuted. Thank
I
you.
got you.
Thank
You have
you
a
all.
quorum. The first
Thank you.
item on the
Thank you.
agenda, Mayor, is council approval of first reading and consideration of approval of emergency procurement ordinance enhancing operational
You didn't hear me say
efficiency.
present?
I'm sorry? Yes, Mr. Baker. Councilmember Baker's here.
Okay, read the first item, please, Madam Clerk.
The first item is council approval of first reading and consideration of approval of emergency procurement ordinance enhancing operational efficiencies, sponsored by council members Rao, Gumbs, and Reeves.
Okay, Mr. Reeves, Ms. Willis is in the speaker queue. Ms. Willis? Madam Clerk, do you see Ms. Willis in the speaker queue? Madam Clerk,
Yes.
Ms. Willis, go right ahead. You're in the speaker queue.
Yes, I would like to move that we waive first read for the emergency procurement ordinance.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? I see Mr. Rowell in the queue.
So you want to, I want to make sure I understood. You want to waive the first read for the emergency procurement?
I think that was the motion.
Okay, well, I'll just do the general discussion.
Okay.
Basically, this ordinance was brought forth because we had discussion at our last council meeting based on feedback from our city manager about the need to move T-SPLOS projects along. This would also impact our URA project. It's based on this, looking at the DOS professional services exceptions, the DOS exemption list by NIGP code, and looking at the City of Atlanta ordinance. A number of municipalities and local governments exempt professional services. This particular ordinance would not make any changes to the current definition in the City of South Fulton's procurement code.
Okay. Ms. Willis.
Yes, I waive first read because typically ordinances are required 2 reads. I requested to read first read because that is what is supposed to happen. We still would have to make a motion to approve the ordinance where the discussion would have been appropriate. So regarding the waiving the first read, the discussion should have been relative to any objection or any discussion around waiving the first read. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Gilliard.
I just want to know whether or not the other emergency ordinance is on the agenda.
Which emergency ordinance are you? Everybody's on the agenda.
The one that I authored.
Everything is on the agenda that has been passed by Mr. Pascal and been approved by the mayor.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Let's vote.
And that's the next item on the agenda?
Ma'am?
Because the agenda just says emergency ordinance, and there are 2. So I do not know whether or not, since it's not in detail, I don't know whether we're dealing with one of them or 2 of them. So that's why I'm asking the question.
We were dealing with one of the original agenda had one of them on that. I think this motion gives you an opportunity, if they waive the first read, to come back and make any additions that you'd like.
So I don't know whether or not my question was answered. My question is, where is my emergency ordinance?
It's not on this agenda. It is not on this agenda because it has not passed Mr. Pascal.
Oh, yes, it did. It was the first. Let me say this. Please let me finish, Mayor. It was the first ordinance that Mr. Pascal received, and it passed him. The one that we're dealing with now was the second ordinance that is on the agenda today. That is not the reason why my ordinance is not on the agenda.
That in my inquiry as to why this ordinance is on there, that's what I was told. However, if you waive this first reading, then I'm sure that we can come back at the next meeting and appropriately have the agenda recognize your information.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Voting is now open.
All right, let's vote.
Let's vote. We're not voting, it's an ordinance.
We're voting to waive the first read.
I don't understand.
You're waiving the first read, so you have to vote to waive the first read.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are all votes in, Madam Clerk?
Not yet.
Okay, so where do I go? I gotta go to the
Novus agenda.
Novus to vote.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm trying to minimize. Do you see it?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Well, I clicked yes, and it says confirm.
Click confirm again.
Why are you doing? Well, she just
The vote passes.
Okay. I understand that, Madam Attorney, you have a comment? Madam Attorney. Okay, read the next, call the next
Yes,
agenda
Mayor.
item.
Mayor, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I do have a comment. It takes a moment for the staff to unmute me because I can't
Okay.
unmute myself.
Go right
So I
ahead.
apologize for the delay. But I was going, I wanted to communicate that you would not want to waive first read. You still want to have first read, which doesn't require any action by the council. What you would want to do is you would want to adopt the emergency form immediately. So you would have the first read for the non-emergency form, and then your motion would be to immediately adopt the emergency version. Once you
So
did
Madam-
that, the emergency version would stay active for up to 30 days. And
So
then if
Madam-
you have a first read, if you have a second read by at least 30 days, then you're able to give it permanent placement.
So, Madam Attorney, during the discussion period, why was that not noted?
Well, I was not able to talk, but I did, as soon as Councilwoman Willis made her motion, I wrote in the comment box, I have a comment. I think it, so I did, I'm just not able to talk to you until.
I got you. I got you. So at this point in the meeting, what are you recommending?
I recommend that you reconsider waiving first read so that you can still have the first read today. So that today will constitute first read, and that you rescind that motion and that approval, and that you entertain a new motion to approve the emergency form of the ordinance effective today.
If I do that, because we understand that there is another, Ms. Gilliard has another bit of information that she wants to be read too. Can that, by rescinding that at the next meeting when we come up, can that be incorporated in that?
That is correct, Mayor. At the next meeting, it would constitute the second read, and you can incorporate any additional revisions at the second read. The only thing that adopting the emergency version would do is it would allow the form that's presented currently by Gumbs, Rao, and Reeves, it would allow their provision to go into effect immediately until you have that second read.
Okay, that makes sense. Ms. Willis. Ms. Willis? Councilmember Willis?
Corey,
Councilmember Willis? Hold on a minute.
I was speaking, Mayor, but someone didn't unmute.
No, we got you. We hear you now.
Okay. And so, Attorney Walker, for clarification, I have been watching and I read up on this, and other cities, when they have emergency ordinances, they are waiving the first read because we're putting into motion an ordinance without going to two reads. So just for the record, are you stating that we do not have to vote to waive our first read in order to put an ordinance into immediate action for emergency purposes?
Just a second, Ms. Willis, so she can respond.
And please leave me unmuted because I have. So is that, I'm just asking for clarification and I'm asking for the record. Are you saying that we do not have to waive?
Attorney Walker, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. And Councilwoman Willis, I think a distinction that you have between other ordinances that you've seen, and this one may be that a lot of the other ordinances are temporary declarations in the sense that they're jurisdictions saying that for the immediate future, for whatever extended period, we're going to do X, Y, Z. The item that you have before you now is not temporary. It's going to be a permanent change. So therefore, you would not want to waive first read because you would want to have that first read so that when you get to the next meeting, you are able to have second read.
Okay.
But you would also.
Thank you. So are you saying for the stay in place order, we will want to waive the first read since that's temporary?
Correct.
Okay, and for this ordinance, because it's not temporary, this is going to be indefinite. We don't want to, we want to still have the first read, but we want to go ahead and put it in immediate action right now and then come back and read it again at the next council meeting.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. The other question I have is for the ordinance that Councilmember Gilliard is stating that's not on the agenda. Will we have any legality around adding that to the agenda since it was not on public notice, being that this is a special call meeting?
So technically, if it's the council's discretion, you would be able to hear her item today. The reason I say that is because you have two items. You are limited not to what's on the agenda, you're limited to what you put out in the call of the meeting. And that's for purposes of letting the public, fellow council members know these are the items that are going to be discussed. In the notice that you put out, it didn't specifically limit the type procurement ordinance that you were going to discuss. And then you also have item 3, which is very general, it's broad. It states just response to the pandemic.
Right,
So
and
you
I'm
could
not trying to be
technically-
opposite. I just know that that ordinance was not, I'm not trying to be opposite. I just don't want us to violate any sunshine and open record laws. That ordinance was not on the special call meeting agenda. The ordinance is not, it was not on notice. It was not given to the council members. It was not given to the public. So are you saying that it's okay to add it to the special call meeting agenda and count it as the first read and vote on it on the next meeting?
So you may amend the agenda. So it's not the agenda that you're confined to for special meetings. You can amend the agenda. Your limitation is adding a topic that is not on the call that went out notifying the public of the meeting.
Okay. Thank you for clarification.
Madam Attorney?
Mayor,
Yes, Mayor.
That was what I was getting to when I asked you if we're going to waive this first reading, would it be appropriate at the next meeting to incorporate Mrs. Gilliard's information?
Well, you
That's
don't,
why I was
Mayor, you don't want to waive the first reading. So
I understand
the only
that
part
now.
of your statement is just you don't want to waive the first reading, but it is still you are still able to add Councilwoman Gilliard's recommended language to this ordinance at the next meeting. You're able to do that.
And I want to let you know, just for the record, I am thoroughly confused about your opining to what can and what cannot be on a special agenda, but that's for another session. Mr. Khalid.
Mayor, okay.
Mr. Khalid.
Councilmember Khalid, you need to unmute yourself.
Hi, just a reminder, there is a delay to unmute ourselves. We have to
Yes,
wait
we know.
permission.
Yes, I got you, Mr. Khalid.
But I had my question answered. I thought people could not watch the meeting live, but I'm being told that it is being streamed live right now on YouTube.
Okay. All right. So at this time, Madam Attorney.
I have something to say.
Okay, let me excuse me 1 minute. Let me get Madam Attorney. Madam Attorney.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, so to see where we are now, you're still asking for a reconsideration of the first read and a new motion to be made. Am I correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
I have something to say.
Okay, wait till we get to discussion, Ms. Gilliard. I got you. And you need to cue in. I will entertain a motion to reconsider the first read.
I make a motion to reconsider the first read.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second discussion. Ms. Gilliard, you had something to say.
Because it is not on today's agenda, I am perfectly okay with it being on the agenda of the next meeting to give everyone the opportunity to read it. We don't have it before us. And since it is different, I don't see why it would be included with the one that we're discussing today. So as long as it is on the agenda for the next meeting, I'm okay with that.
Well, Ms. Gilliard,
I prefer.
Ms. Gilliard, I can almost assure you of that, okay?
Okay, so I prefer if we do that.
Okay.
Voting is open.
Well, let me carry the motion.
No, they got to vote first.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's vote, please.
One second, Mayor. I can't, my Novus is not there anymore. Okay, 1 moment. There we go.
And let me remind everybody, when you want to speak, please go into the speaker queue because I can't see you.
Okay, so we have 4 voting: Councilmember Baker, Willis, and Gums, and Rao for yes. Councilmember Khalid and Councilmember Gilliard did not vote.
Is there a problem with their voting?
Councilmember Khalid has voted.
Okay, what is he voting to the affirmative or what?
Yes.
All right.
Councilmember Gilliard?
No.
Is that a no vote?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion passes with,
Has Council Reeves voted?
yes, everybody else has voted. No, Councilmember Reeves has not voted.
Councilmember Reeves is in the chat saying he's having difficulty.
Can we get a voice vote for Councilmember Reeves, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Reeves? What is your vote? Can you verbally say your vote?
Aye.
Okay, it passes with 6 to 1.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Would you go to the next item, please?
The next item is the City of South Fulton's response to COVID-19, the city manager.
City Manager, you have the floor.
All right, so thank you, Mayor and Council. I won't go through all of the various memorandums that we sent, but I did want to highlight a couple of items. And so as we talk about the things that the city has done, first we'll just quickly highlight some of the administrative activities that you may or may not be aware of. 2, Mr. Valenzuela is on the call and he will provide a brief update on the capital projects that are continuing to move forward. Mr. Malazzi is also here to provide you a fiscal outlook for which you have the attachments for. He has a financial report for the the month ending of February 2020, but also some key insights on our decision-making process financially. And then finally, there have been some questions and concerns and insights requested on hazard pay and staff's recommendation related to that. And so we'll briefly touch those topics and move on to any directives that the council may have for us as we continue. So I think the first item is when we look at the administrative response to the coronavirus, I think we sent a fairly expansive memo that is online and available to the public. But a few areas that we wanted to just highlight is that we have suspended all non-essential business travel and suspended any non-essential training activities, any capital projects that are not funded by external sources, meaning outside of the general fund, unless deemed necessary, have basically been suspended. It doesn't mean that we won't move forward with them. We're evaluating each one, and they have to go through an approval process. We have also made some recommendations to the council to suspend or adjust a variety of contracts. We have terminated the security contract and replaced it with police, as our operations are not currently available in person to the public. We've also recommended that the furniture rentals be suspended, whereas we could just make those minor purchases. We are looking at both the Jacobs and Charles Abbott contract, but the Charles Abbott contract, we have identified that it is a positive revenue producer for us, and we have not, it is our recommendation not to suspend permitting and building. I know that the city of Atlanta has suspended their permitting processes, but the city of South Fulton, as we have announced to you and the public, has the ability to coordinate those activities online. Those staff members have been deemed essential, and it is one of our continuing revenue sources. And so we recommend that as you look at your shelter in place ordinance, you deem that along with a few other areas essential. I think of a few things to highlight, I guess, just for the knowledge of the public, as I'm sure you have read and dissected the memorandum. Our expenditures do show, our revenues and expenditures do show that we do have enough cash flow if we continue operations in the manner that we currently are, that we should still receive additional revenues on track, while we do project them to decrease significantly. But we are certain that we can continue to pay our employees, both essential employees, teleworking employees, and those that are on administrative leave through the end of the fiscal year, if we make the recommended adjustments to contracts and assuming that we take the necessary actions to mitigate COVID-19. Those are aggressive steps, but they are the ones that keep our most valuable resource, our people, in place, and also helps to kind of flush the economy. I think there is one adjustment that I did want to highlight, and Mr. Pike is on the line to be able to chime in if you needed more details. But our businesses are one of our second or third largest revenue sources, whether it be sales tax, business licensing, and things of that nature. And so we are proposing to, in budget, be able to deliver a small business program. So we would forego some of the hiring and forego some of the identified business programming and create a specific small business programs. The details are in the memo. Would like to give some kudos to Councilmember Gums for working with Mr. Pike to propose a readjustment of our funding in that way, because that would allow some of our citizens to remain working, as well as our businesses to continue to pay them. And so it's kind of twofold, to where it helps to positively impact the economy as much as possible, but also keep those hardworking individuals able to remain on payroll. I think in closing, before we close out that portion of the administrative response, there have been a lot of things that both our council and staff have done to both keep the public safe, ensure we have resources, and support, all parties during this pandemic. I think one, definitely wanted to provide kudos to Ms. Reed and Chief Broom, who used their own personal relationships to ensure that key life-saving equipment that includes ventilators and masks have been provided. I think when it comes to testing, Councilmember Khalid has identified a source for tests. Our partners at the City of Atlanta provided us a pre-vetted procurement list for emergency equipment because the bulk of the equipment we attempted to order was backlogged and we could not get access to it. In addition to that, I think Councilmember Baker worked with Attorney Chris Stewart to deliver about 300 vetted N95 masks at no cost. And today, the city manager's office partnered with Waffle House and will be partnering with others to deliver meals to all of our essential staff members to kind of, let them know that we are very aware of the sacrifice that they're making on behalf of mayor and council and the 100,000 residents of the city of South Fulton. And so I think your efforts to not only take the lead in the region and really the state to put these efforts in place, as well as putting our people first, is something that folks, are really taking to heart. And I'll tell you, just on behalf of the staff members, it is greatly appreciated. And so with that, I can either entertain any questions, concerns, or thoughts, or we can move to Mr. Valenzuela having the ability to talk about capital projects.
Let me hold right here. There's a procedural matter that we need to take care of with the attorney. Attorney, are you on the line? Madam Attorney, are you on the line?
Yes, Mayor, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Yes, Mayor. In reference to the previous item, the emergency ordinance, procurement ordinance from Rao, Gums, and Reeves.
Yes.
You have moved to reconsider, but now you have to actually reconsider. Okay. So that would require a motion to withdraw the motion. And then if that is approved, then you would need a new motion to move forward with first read for the item and to also authorize it effective immediately in its emergency form.
Okay, well, I would accept a motion to withdraw.
I make a motion to withdraw the
prior motion, the prior approval.
The waiver of the first read of emergency procurement.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Discussion. Hearing none. Let's vote, please.
I don't even know why my screen looks like this.
Is everyone voting?
No, something happened to my screen. It looks really weird.
Well, let's take a verbal vote for Ms. Gilliard.
I don't understand why my screen looks like this.
Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call. Councilmember Rao?
Yes.
Councilmember Gums?
Yes.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I asked to speak during discussion. No one recognized me. I'm in the queue. Nobody recognized me.
Excuse me. I held up everything to do a procedural.
Look at the Zoom chat notes, Mayor.
Miss Willis, listen to me. I held it up just temporarily to take care of a procedural matter that we should take care of. Once we take care of this procedural matter, you are number one in the queue.
No, this is regarding the discussion. When you ask, can we reconsider? First of all, how can Councilmember Rao ask to withdraw a motion that she did not make? And so I asked to unmute me so I can withdraw the motion that I made.
Okay.
Is that required?
You said Mr. Rao was not on the prevailing side?
Why has my screen changed?
I asked to be unmuted so that I can withdraw the motion that I made. And then Councilmember Rao made the motion. Councilmember Gums seconded. Then you asked for discussion. And I tried, and I was in the queue for discussion. And if you look at the chat notes, I kept saying, please unmute me.
Okay, I don't see those things, Ms. Willis, but go right ahead.
But can I?
Madam Attorney, go ahead.
Yeah, so the motion cannot be withdrawn by one person at this point because right now it's effectively approved. It's been approved by the entire council, so the entire council would need to agree to withdraw it. So you guys
so
have
that-
agreed.
I'm sorry.
You
Go
guys
ahead,
have
It's a
agreed.
valid motion is what you're saying.
My screen.
Yes, so the council, your previous motion that you did on this, you agreed that we would now vote whether we're going to withdraw it. So now
Right.
you would collectively have to approve the withdrawal, just because it's been approved collectively by you at this point.
So not council member, so Madam Attorney, can you please explain? Okay, so I'm confused on what we need to do now. So who needs to what do we need to do to correct this?
So there's 3 steps you would need to do. You've already taken one. The
Okay.
first would be you would have to collectively agree to even reconsider withdrawing.
That's correct.
Okay,
And you guys have agreed to do that. That passed. The
Now we need
second
to vote.
motion now would be to agree to withdraw it.
okay. And so the person in order for us to agree to withdraw it, do we need to make a motion? Do I need to make the motion to withdraw the motion that I originally made?
No, anybody who voted, well, actually now anybody can make that motion. Now
Right.
that it's been approved that you'll reconsider it, anyone can make that motion.
Okay, so what Councilmember Rowley
I said
was make a
that's
motion to
Diane's screen. That's why.
withdraw it. And
Yeah,
so,
so I would suggest, Councilwoman Willis, if Councilwoman Rao's motion passed, then you'll need the final motion, which is to accept it in first
Right.
read, and then to approve it in emergency form effective immediately.
okay, and so at this point, we need to take the third action. And so I move to.
Well, you haven't voted on the second action, so now you're,
The second action, I'm about to ask for a
Okay, we were
motion.
in discussion. Okay, I
Correct.
understand. Okay, I understand.
So right now I want to, I will acknowledge a motion to a new
There's
motion
already,
to withdraw.
there's
Am I
already a motion on the floor.
just
Councilmember
need to
Rao
vote.
made it. Councilmember Gomes seconded. So we're voting now.
Okay,
Madam Attorney, go ahead, vote.
I have Councilmember Rao, yes. Councilmember Gomes, yes. Councilmember Khalid, yes. Councilmember Willis, yes. Councilmember Reeves, yes. So Councilmember Baker, are you voting? Councilmember Gomes, are you not Gomes, Gilliard, are you voting?
I think you have to give them a minute because there is a delay.
You got it, Baker there.
Councilmember
Nobody
Gilliard.
is letting me in.
I'm sorry.
It's not that they're not letting you in. Just hold on 1 second. I'm telling them.
What is your vote?
They're voting, and I've got.
You can do a verbal vote, Ms.
Why am I okay?
Mr.
I
Gilliard,
finally
Ms.
am.
Gilliard.
I had a problem. I had a problem, and I needed to ask a question. So please let me ask the question because it will let me know how I need to vote. What we are doing right now is voting on that one ordinance. Is that correct?
that's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, so, all right.
So what's your vote on the withdrawal?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-1, because I haven't heard from Councilmember Baker.
Okay, Madam Attorney.
Yes, Mayor. So now
make
you would
sure
need,
make sure we be consistent. I need a motion to, we need a new motion for the withdrawal, right?
well, you've just done that one. So now you would need a motion to accept it in first form and to approve the emergency form effective immediately.
So I move to accept the emergency procurement ordinance in first form and approve the emergency.
I want the screen change. Wait a minute.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second. We're now in discussion. Hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye. Oh. All right. Mayor, thank you for allowing us to clear that up.
That is no problem. Mr. City Manager? Mr. City Manager? Mr. Donald, are you there?
Councilmember Gilliard and Baker, what's your vote?
My vote is no. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay.
Councilmember Baker? Okay, the motion passes.
Mayor, I've gone back in the queue when you get an opportunity to recognize
I see you.
other individuals, and I'm going back in the queue because I have a question for city manager.
Okay, I see you here, and Mr. Khalid. Madam Attorney?
Yes, Mayor.
Did that resolve that situation?
It did, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your advice. Okay, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you need to speak for a minute.
Well, no, I think, just wanted to highlight those contributions. I definitely left some folks off. I know just highlighting that you have an activity coming up ensuring that the youth in our community, even though we don't oversee schools, that they are fed. I know that some of the council members are hosting virtual town halls, just a lot of positive stuff going on. So I did want to highlight that, even though we're tasked with making some of these challenging decisions. I also know that I think there were some folks in the queue who had questions. And so portion A, which is just the general overview, is complete. As a reminder, Mr. Valenzuela is ready to provide capital project information. Mr. Malazi next on fiscal outlook. And then finally, information on hazard pay grants and other activities. Although there was a memorandum, we were going to talk about those briefly for the edification of the public. So ready for those when you are, but I believe you wanted to entertain.
Right now, to speak to your first part, I have Mr. Khalid. Councilmember Khalid.
Hi. So first, I would just like to offer a suggestion. It appears that several members of council are having problems either getting into the queue to speak or with voting. We have this chat box here. I'm wondering if it would be possible to record our votes in the chat box. And then that way, when the meeting replays, people will be able to see the votes visually as well. And the second thing is, if people could request to speak using the chat box, then people wouldn't have to toggle back and forth between screens, and there could just be a visual record that everyone could see of the order.
Mr. Khalid.
I was not
Mr. Khalid, excuse me, Mr. Khalid.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to acknowledge on my screen here, I don't have the chat box, but I have Neymar here who can read the chat box items to me. So I just want to let you all know that.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know if it's a thing with your screen or not, but at the bottom there's something that says chat, and that'll usually open up.
He's here. I have it, but he's on another computer. Go ahead.
Okay. And the last suggestion I would just ask is that when we call for the vote or when we call for discussion, if it's possible to just unmute all the council members at once, if we're on our best behavior, then we don't have to worry about this delay. I have no questions about the suggestions that Mr. Donald made. While I am somewhat concerned about I guess I do have this question. I am concerned about the health ramifications of allowing permitting and things to continue. I do understand the balance of the economic feasibility of our city and people working. My question would be, are we opening up the permit process for just commercial things, or are we also if someone's trying to build a deck on their house or a pool, is the permitting open for that? And if it is, so that's my first question. We can just answer that question.
So the short answer is yes. We have a new online system that actually just went live. And so we will be transitioning, I believe, all of those folks to telework, and people will be able to submit documents, receive feedback, et cetera, online. In addition to that, I mean, it'd probably be easier to just allow you, if you need some additional detail, Ms. Reed is also on the line, so we can unmute her and she can give you some insights about it. May be good for the public to know a little bit more about this permitting process, although we are rolling out a campaign to educate everyone on it. So if that's your preference, I can defer to her.
I think I don't want to elongate the meeting. So if there is, if someone can make a video, or if we can maybe do a Zoom call for people who are interested in permitting, and then we can like visually walk that through people.
Yes, sir. We're working on the South Fulton 101 to release it to everyone online, and that South Fulton 101 page is still live, and there are additional things that we're moving online to be able to push that out to the public. So it'll be in the newsletters. I encourage the public, if you're not signed up for the newsletter, please sign up, because all of that information will be pushed out there and on the website.
Okay, Mr. Khalid, what I would like to do is, I think you asked a pertinent question that a lot of people have been asking about, and I would like to give our director a few minutes to expound on that.
Okay, let me just ask this follow-up question so that she can talk about both of them, because the follow-up question is, if the permitting is open, is construction or inspections, are those considered essential service? So if I can get a permit to build a deck, can I have the people come out to actually build my deck while we're on a shelter in place?
Good question. Ms. Reed?
Mayor, the short answer to that, and she's going to chime in, but yes, that's why we've asked for building activities to continue. And remember that a great amount of that happens through the Charles Abbott contract. And so they have their own safety protocols and things of that nature for their staff, but we are currently contracted with them to deliver that service. And we have that revenue sharing option. And so Ms. Reed, if you're on, I don't know if the clerk's office has had the opportunity to unmute her. So if you just give her 1 second, she is on and ready to discuss.
I do have a couple of people in the queue. I have not forgotten you. We just want to get through with this.
Okay, thank you all for the opportunity to speak on that. So with the permitting operations, nothing has changed. We are one of few governments that has continued permitting operations. We have an online operations that went live on yesterday, on Monday, that we're really excited about. So anyone from the public can come in and submit their information online. Your engineers and planners are still reviewing those permits. So we're still home working. So we're reviewing those drawings, putting it back into the queue for those to be communicated back to the public. Permits are being issued very fast. We're having inspections being done with Charles Abbott. I meet with them on 2 to 3 times a week, and their response has been that permitting has not changed much in the last few weeks. We're still out constructing. We're still doing work. So even though COVID is present, it has not stopped construction. So with that being said, any information is well online. How our operations work is also located on our permits webpage as well.
Mr. Khalid, did they answer your question? Mr. Khalid?
He said yes.
Okay.
Mayor, it's also important to know that the state legislation allows builders to engage private inspectors as well. So to a certain extent, construction would continue whether they utilize our service or not, but us making it available online ensures that we are still managing the process.
Okay. Ms. Willis, you're up.
Yes, thank you for recognizing me, Mayor. For some reason, my Zoom was knocked out, and I had to log back in. So that's probably why you didn't hear me when you may have called my name.
Okay.
A couple of questions. First of all, I would like to say thank all of my colleagues for their contributions and staff to help us get past this pandemic. And yes, the mayor and I are collaborating with state and county officials this evening to provide additional updates from all facets of government. I have a question because we keep talking about, and it's important that we keep talking about it, and we keep assessing it throughout this process, because overall revenue is going to reduce on a federal, state, and local level. But there has been funding. There is funding that is available that is supposed to reimburse local governments for payment of administrative leave for the COVID pandemic. And so I understand that we must be fiscally responsible. We're going to have to make adjustments. But are we going after that funding? And do we have anybody who has the expertise to help us go after this funding?
So the short answer is yes. We've kind of been managing that through a combination of human resources and our risk manager and through the staff in my office. And so there are some intricacies to that. It expands leave, but people have to access that leave. I think you're aware of the expansion of FMLA and those other specific areas. So we are documenting, cataloging it, and I think Mr. Malazi sent you guys an update that we are coding all of those things appropriately to COVID-19. The reimbursement process, though, is not as quick as we would like. There have been no reimbursements at that time. And so I think that is a big part of why we are trying to reduce those expenses. I think even further is that the expenses are not just for our people. There are expenses related to our process and operations. And so the biggest concern there is that, you know, the multiple areas that we are looking at, whether it ranges from just our staff or our businesses and how we support the whole of our community and deliver services at that time, is already taking a huge hit when it comes to revenues. We're projecting that not only for this year, we expect a decline in revenues. Depending on what occurs in the economy, we have what others are calling conservative projections of 9 to a 20% reduction in revenue. And that's assuming that this pandemic subsides in June, which, as you see, the feds are now pushing things back to August and September. That, if we are not very prudent, could be catastrophic to our new government, which is just now turning the corner financially.
Okay, and so my other question to you, I have two more questions subsequent of this question. What are we doing? We have allocated $50,000 for our census, 2020 census initiative. And yes, we are doing a wonderful job pushing things out on social media. But, you know, we have a large population in our community that that's not on social media. And so my recommendation is, can we work with our communication team to at least get one piece of mail literature out to our community and to remind them to go online and respond to the 2020 census. The date for has been pushed back to August for the final response. Well, not final response, but it has been pushed back to August. But I am recommending that we take money that we have allocated to the 2020 census and get some type of mailer out.
Yes, ma'am. So it's actually, I know that memo was fairly long, but those activities are included in one of the three memos provided. But to just provide clarification, and it's probably good for our public to hear it as well, not only will we be doing a limited mailer, but we will also be partnering with our public safety folks who are, touring these communities and being visible and ensuring that people are complying with the ordinances that you guys are putting in place, where we'll be hand delivering some information on the census as well, so that one, we can keep costs down, but then we can also be proactive in monitoring our communities. And so we'll be doing a variety of things related to the census. And just to be honest, there is a lot of change that is occurring. I believe this morning or maybe tomorrow, we'll be receiving our mailer from the printer, and we've already got it prepared to be mailed. So we're using a combination of things. And now that you've asked the question and we've been able to talk to the public about it in this forum, we'll also make sure to give you details on the specific actions that we have taken and plan to take over the next 2 months related to the census. But
Yeah, because I did see.
Ms. Willis, can I add to what you just said, please?
Sure.
Okay, I think another thing that we have to incorporate as our citizenry calls in for whatever reason, I think we should incorporate our conversation to ask the question: Have you sent in your census forms to everybody we talk to? Yeah, and I think that'll have a valued impact.
We can make sure, and that's a great idea, Mayor and Councilwoman. I think one thing is people have the numbers on our 311 call center have jumped through the roof. And so we'll make sure that our communications, I think you see them in the chat, they're monitoring this. And so we always do a debrief after these meetings. And so we'll continue to add that, and we'll look at adding it to our 311 call center when people call in, being able to respond. And so we'll
thank you, Ms. Willis.
And so, Mr. Donald, I did read all of your memos, and I did see mention of the census in the memo, but as you just stated, I didn't see a lot of detail around it. So that was one of the reasons I'm bringing it up now.
Yeah, no problem. And again, I'll make sure, it's a lot, juggling quite a few things, and we're trying to get y'all as much information as possible, as well as to the public. So that's one that I think we've already got in the can, and I'll make sure that we get that out to you guys as quickly as possible. And some of these memos, at least the ones that are general in nature, we are also posting on the website for our citizens to get information as well. So we're not regurgitating all of these things. So yes, ma'am.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention is hazmat pay for our frontline employees, our public safety workers, our code enforcement workers, our public works worker. I understand we're not the city of Atlanta, and I understand that we're not the CAB, but I don't want that to be an excuse for the city of South Fulton. If there's federal funding out there that we can get and pay our employees who are running to the risk and preventing us from, when we can stay at home and work behind a computer. We can keep separate, but we have workers who don't have that luxury. And if there's federal funding out there that we can go after to make sure that we're compensating them for putting their lives at risk to protect us, Mr. Donald, I hope that we're doing everything in our power to make sure that is done, because the employees have been directly reaching out to some of us council members, and I'm not saying we're not doing everything to make sure that they're taken care of, but they need some assurance that we are. And I think that would be a good way. If it's any way possible, we could go after that funding and make sure they get the monies for putting their lives at stake for us on a daily basis.
Yes, ma'am. And so we were going to talk about this later in the agenda. Mayor, do you mind if I just it could be
go right ahead. Go right ahead.
I'm in the queue.
But I'm not finished, and I have the floor, Ms. Gilliard.
Excuse me. I will handle the meeting. Mr. Donald, go right ahead.
Yes, sir. So very quickly, the federal government, as the council knows, the public may not, but I still sit on the Resilience Committee and also all of the regional and local advisory groups. And so South Fulton has been the loudest voice, not only in this region, but in the country, about the need for hazard pay. The federal government is considering it. There's a fairly large group of administrators from around the country who are signing off on letters, telling them how it works at the local level, and to be pretty frank with you, asking that those things skip the state level and go directly to locals, because all of the frontline staff, for the most part, are these local municipalities. While we're not cash flush, and I did provide you guys a memo that breaks down, and it is available to the public, what hazard pay is, how it's operated as well. While it's not an excuse, and I think my memo says that we are still exploring it and figuring out how to pay it here locally, even though today we have not identified and are not certain we have the money. But the reason that we advised the council and you graciously approved in your leadership to ensure we have the highest paid frontline workers in the region, and the Metro Atlanta region leads the state, is so that we can make sure we keep our commitment to pay our staff handsomely for the heavy work that they do. Even with the hazard pay provided by Atlanta and those others, with hazard pay, they still make less or equal to our staff, as illuminated in the memo. In addition to that, there are a very limited, as you see, we have been in contact with over 50 jurisdictions, both state, local, and federal, to survey how hazard pay has been delivered. And for most, meaning 98% of them, there has been no additional hazard pay. Further, today, I provided a letter to every single frontline staff member, assuring them that not only are we, along with breakfast and lunch, not only are we assuring that we are exploring hazard pay, committing to them that if we can identify it, we are working with the feds to try to make it retroactive as well. So we are on the exact same page when it comes to hazard pay. We are championing it, and just as we have been at the front of tackling COVID-19, we are going to continue to be at the front for advocating for our workforce. But I would also caution, and I think it's important for our frontline employees to know, our staff, that the commitment that we have made is that South Fulton is a family, and we want to take care of every employee. And to be able to do that, we have a system in place, and we are hoping to leverage the federal funds and identify funds in our budget. But what would be very difficult for us to do is to sacrifice some employees for others. And so we have to look at it holistically. So today, we do not believe that we can provide hazard pay today. But as you saw in all of my written documentation, so we put it out there to the public, that it is one of the primary areas that we are looking for when it comes to funding, because despite us leading the region in all those areas, including pay, we want to do more.
Thank you, Mr. Donner, for that thorough explanation, but I just want to make a point, and I want to give a little pushback. No, we do not want to sacrifice other employees for other employees, but I do feel that we should make an effort to make more of a sacrifice for employees who don't have the luxury to stay in quarantine, or to stay in place, or to stay at home with their families and work from home. Our code enforcement officers, our public safety officers, our policemen, our fire, they're at their front line. They're at risk more than any of us. And so if we do have to make a little sacrifice to take care of our frontline employees, I think we should be more than willing to do that. Because
I think I said that, Councilman.
Have to make what you did say, and I'm not trying to be argumentative. You said you want to take care of all employees, and we can't take care of one sector more than the other. And what I'm saying is, I understand what you're saying, but I kind of disagree with that, because our frontline employees, I do think we should make more of an effort to make sure that, and even though we are paying them the highest in the region, if there is hazard pay funding that is coming from the federal government that they
So we're in agreement on that.
I think that we should make an effort to that. Maybe there's a miscommunication. I'll go back and listen to your tape, but that's not what I took from what you just said.
So let me be clear. I started by saying on every group that I'm in, including the one that has written letters directly to the president, our governor, conversations directly with the governor, with everyone, we are advocating for hazard pay at the federal and state level. And I also said that what we have been advocating for is that it skips the state and comes directly to locals. That's what's outside of us. I also doubled down on that, and I doubled down on that not only in my memorandum to you as a council member and the rest of the council, but also directly to every one of those workers, letting them know that not only do we intend to provide hazard pay in partnership with the federal government, but we're looking at it on our own on how we can identify those funds. And if possible, we would like to make it retroactive. So that is not in question. But I would also say that right now, the reason why we cannot commit to that today is because the only possible way to do it today is to furlough or RIF other employees. And that would be, I believe, inappropriate. And so that is the clarity that I would like to provide. Additionally, I know that you're one of our most vocal and creative council members, so I would give you the floor back. And if you have a specific policy recommendation or administrative recommendation, I will gladly implement it, because just like you, I am a staunch supporter of all of our employees, especially our first responders.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Donald, and that's what I am going to commit to do. And this is going to be my segue to the last comment that I am making. What I have been doing is taking ownership of interacting with other cities on a national and local level to see what their best practices are in dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic. And so what I will do, and I will make sure that I find out from other cities throughout the nation and locally and through Metro Atlanta and throughout Georgia what they are doing in order to get hazard pay for their frontline workers, and also what their best practices are to help them get through the pandemic. One of the things that I want us to want to recommend that we get we have more of these town hall meetings. I know the city of Savannah has committed to having an town hall meeting once a week, and sometimes, most of the time, it comes from the mayor, where they're going
Miss Willis, Miss Willis,
once a week.
Willis,
Mayor,
I don't want to interrupt you. I have several people in the queue, so if you can kind of wind it up, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, I said this was my last comment. So my recommendation is that we have a lot of residents who say that they don't know what's going on, and we are pushing information out. But I would like to recommend that we find some way to have a town hall meeting once a week, if it has to be a message from the mayor, that we could push out to our residents, so that they know what's going on and have a uniform message, because we all are sending out, some of us are sending out newsletters, but it's different things in each newsletter. Thank you for allowing me to have the floor, and I have completed my comment.
Mayor,
okay, let's move.
Mayor, that's an excellent segue though for you to, because that's kind of in the works, and I think she's bringing up a point that the public needs to know, and so does your council members. Immediately following this meeting and every day after, the mayor, our office, and the city of South Fulton is partnering with ABC News National, where the mayor will give an update on all of our actions, what's going on in the city of South Fulton, and how we are responding to our citizens, as well as the challenges that we're having. And he'll be able to publicly, to their full audience, request additional resources directly to the federal government. We haven't been able to have a chance to write it up. Thank you to Mr. Leftwich and Ms. Melanie Winfield and other staff members who've helped to pull that together. But I assure you that we are uncovering every rock available for our citizens and our staff. As I continue to thank you guys for your leadership and the ability for us to put things like that out to the public. Mayor, I'll defer to you.
Okay, let's go to, yes. Let me go to Mr. Baker. Mr. Baker?
Yes, I think that banter went long enough, and I'll just yield. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Donald and your staff and everything that you're doing. I too had some of those same concerns, but over the back and forth, you definitely put me at ease, and I'm sure some of the residents as well as frontline workers when you said what you're going to do in the committees that you're sitting on and how they're going to skip over to the local level. That satisfies my.
And we're requesting it. I don't have that much power and authority.
Right, I understand, but I heard that, and then in communications over the past, couple of days with you, I'm rest assured. I'm good.
Mr. Baker, let me just add one thing. This topic of skipping over to us, a local government, that is an issue all around. They have even changed the equation for the administration of CDBG, which they're now saying, which usually it's based on population. And Mr. Donald, you can correct me if I'm wrong. That they're now saying that it would go directly to any city that has over 500,000 people. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yeah, there are some details that I don't have in front of me, but generally that's correct. Yes, sir.
And which means, Mr. Baker and others, that that formula we used to have for CDBG in terms of excess and funds, which basically means that those funds will go straight to the state government, and it will be the state government that will issue out the funding for different projects. So I just, when you said that, I want you to know that this issue of funding directly to the cities is a big issue for everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. I have Mrs. Gumbs.
So thank you, Mayor. And Mr. Donald, I just want to commend you and your staff. These updates have definitely, again, put a lot of us at ease. And I'm really definitely proud of the work that you all are doing. And I wanted to kind of talk about just a few things, or I guess answer some of my questions. I have wrote down a list. So for the permits, how many permits are we processing on an average that we want to keep permitting open?
Ooh, I apologize. I did not prepare that today. Is it possible that following the meeting, and again, we're capturing all your questions, if you give me about 3 hours, we will take all of your questions and we'll get as many of them answered as possible quickly and post them online. But any of the ones that we can't answer that quickly, I'll make sure the following day that all of them will be on the COVID-19 update page. And of course, we'll send them directly to council, but we'll have them there because we're redoing that website as we speak.
Okay.
Is that satisfactory?
That will work. I just wanted to make sure. I mean, we're still operating business as usual. I know permitting is part of, some of our revenue source. So I just wanted to kind of gauge how much revenue are we getting in.
Yes, ma'am. I can tell you there hasn't been a decrease in our, so, let's say business license is down 10%, but building licenses is up 10%. So across the board, we're basically flat right now. And so we hope to remain that way. But as the economy changes, we do project a dip. But I will get you specific numbers by category. And you'll see the city manager's report. Ignore that because it's just February. But in that same type of format, condensed, we'll get it directly to you and have something similar on the COVID page. And so I'll try to respond as quickly as possible before close of business today. But a thorough breakdown in those areas can be available tomorrow if y'all can accept that.
Absolutely. You also mentioned about the ABC, I guess the live updates. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. And we also are building more of a national presence. So kudos to you. I would love to get more information on that. But I also understand that there's a town app. I read a press release yesterday in regards to a town app where residents can download this app on their phone and they're getting live updates on the COVID-19 for the city of South Fulton. Do you know when that will launch?
So it's in beta right now. So we're pushing it out actually today and making it accessible. But what will happen, it won't replace the newsletter, but it will allow us to push information from the newsletter, info on permitting, if the laws change, all of those things in one central place. So it'll be just as comprehensive as our, I'll call our other app more of a work order app where people can kind of drop complaints and things of that nature. The other one provides information that is appropriate to them. And so we will actually do a South Fulton 101 on that as well. The final thing is I'm here kind of multitasking, and I didn't want to leave your question unanswered, and I know the citizens would want to know. And so the March just ended, so I don't have the March numbers verified just yet, but we will have those ahead of time. But in January, in the city manager's report that you'll get later today, there are 172 permits in January. They went up to 226 in February, and we expect them to also go up in March. And so March, you should likely consider the baseline of how we judge permitting for the rest of the year now that it's online. And if you make changes to permitting, I would just ask that you look at those numbers as the baseline.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And I know you had mentioned furlough, and I really get nervous when we talk about that. But if we are to furlough any city employees, would they qualify for immediate unemployment? I know that was something that a lot of businesses are going through. So I was just wondering, will we be offering that, or is that something
so they would, but I'm going to tell you, I am extremely confident right now. And I will tell you, in these meetings, y'all know I don't ever really push back too hard or stand strong on certain things, but I'm almost feeling as if we can guarantee to move forward with some of these recommendations that we won't have to furlough people. And so that is why otherwise we could clearly offer additional things, right now today. But if we keep this course of action and the continued leadership that y'all have provided, I think that while it will be tough sledding, we will not have to furlough people. And the resources that the federal government has at least hinted that they're going to put in place to help keep people on payrolls, including local governments, if we can kind of keep the ship going until that happens, we would be reimbursed for abnormal things, including administrative leave pay. And so we're trying to keep the ship steered in the right direction until then. But yes, I can tell you as the former labor commissioner, if people are furloughed, RIF'd, or anything of the sort, they have access to unemployment benefits and the expanded benefits. But if you're only furloughed for a certain period of time, of course, you only get limited benefits. So if you miss one day a month or something of that nature, then your eligibility is kind of based off of that. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I do. So definitely, that's
so
good news.
If anything, I will tell you that my recommendation initially would never be a reduction in force. It would first be a limited furlough that would be expanded if time goes on. But this plan that we have in place should get us through at least May. I'm projecting June, but I like to under promise and over deliver. So our evaluation period will occur beginning May 1st. And at the end of May, we will have a stronger recommendation.
Okay, thank you. And my last question, kudos again to you and Mr. Pike about the small business loans. I know that as a very young city, that it's hard for us to kind of support our businesses, but I definitely think this is a great thing. How soon do you think you all will be able to launch that program for business owners?
Yes, ma'am. So normally the mid-year budget would occur towards the end of this month. All of those recommendations that we provided in that memo are our combined areas of consideration for the council so that we can bring those back to you either at the end of this month, but I believe Mr. Malazzi wanted to give you guys time to flesh it out. He and I have been kind of communicating back and forth, kind of tweaking the information. And so I would say circle the first week of May in your calendars and allow us to shore up these expenditures and the different programs. And what we would be looking at is a rollout in May in conjunction with the mid-year budget amendment. But the fleshing out of the program, I think you've gotten some general stuff in the memo, but we've partnered with SBA and some others, so we're trying to supplement those funds. So we should have that out to you guys by the end of the week, which is tomorrow, for your review. And I will update the memo and consolidate the quote unquote administrative ask for the mid-year budget in collaboration with Mr. Malazzi to bring back to you guys for a May approval if you're on board with it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have in the queue Ms. Rao.
I don't want to reiterate a lot of the things my colleagues have said, but I did want to take this opportunity to again say thank you for the staff. I think you've done an outstanding job. And to express, I tend not to go out, but I don't think there's one person on this council who is not committed to trying to get hazardous pay to our workers if we can. But from my understanding, typically it could take as much as 5 years to get that money. So it has long-term implications. So kudos to you in terms of trying to advocate for that money to come directly to municipalities so we don't have that long waiting time. And so if we did, we would have to be able to front that. Of course, we would hope it wouldn't take that kind of, but historically it can take as long as that.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, thank you for that. And I'll leave it there because I think we've covered a lot of things I wanted to say.
Okay. Mr. Manager, you wanted to.
Wait a minute, I'm in the queue, Mayor Edwards.
You might drop out. I'm sorry, Ms. Gilliard. I didn't see you in here. Go right ahead.
Well, I have two questions and some comments. And the first one is that I want to know what safety measures are in place in the permitting area for the residents that are coming in or whomever is coming in to get permits and the staff. That's number one.
Okay.
And
so
number two.
Can I answer them?
Wait a minute. Let me just finish.
Let her finish, Mr. Amanda. Please let her finish.
Yeah, let me finish. And then the second one is about three things that are under where we are in terms of the budget. One is, I thought that when we arrived at the true up, we were going to be talking about giving the police department more officers, especially since they have a new beat program that would really, it's an excellent program, and it would really do an awful lot for public safety and give them additional officers that they really need. That's number one. Number two is public works. And with Jacobs having a budget already of a little over $6 million, I'm kind of concerned that we need to allocate additional funds, even though I know that having to deal with bridges, et cetera, is really like a real big deal. But I'm looking at that while I am on the news every day listening to, we don't know where this is going. We really don't know where the economy is going. And it's almost like a yo-yo. All of the states are talking about they're not getting what they need. And then when the politicians get on, they're talking about, well, we're going to need to get an additional allotment in order to get to the states and the local areas the money that they need. So in an atmosphere of such a big unknown, I just think that we need to be extremely cautious about how much we spend, what we spend it for, knowing that you already said that there's going to be possibly a $10 million decrease in revenue, and then you don't even know about property taxes for next year based on the way everything is going. So I think that the administration has done an excellent job of looking at where can we possibly save as much as possible, and we might need to sit on it for a minute before we move towards doing something with it, doing a lot of different things with it. So
I'll try to answer them all. You had a lot of questions, and so I don't remember them all, but I will start with every year, at least since I've been here, we have underspent our budget by at least 20%. And so being frugal and ensuring that we are great stewards of taxpayer money is something that I've been just as adamant on as anyone. And I think that's reflective across the budget, as well as the gains that we've made to tear into our deficit. Second, when it comes to the safety of those employees that you asked about, so nobody's coming in, we are receiving it. And so listen, we write in these memorandums, we really need folks to dive into this stuff because it is included there, but that area, that's one that we heard you guys loud and clear on, and y'all have led the way and the administration has followed. So no one is coming into those offices. They're electronically in mail, and now it's even easier because we have the new permitting software that has gone live, so they can simply upload it. If they don't have access to a computer, they can continue to mail those things in, and that's what we're accepting. And then we also have the disinfecting of City Hall that is occurring regularly, as well as all of the desk materials that are incoming, et cetera, et cetera. So those things are happening. You asked about the public works budget, and so that $6.5 million, I will continue to mention this every day at the same time and same way. You know, that budget is about $3 million less than the poor service we received at Fulton County. So while the number, if you just throw it out there with no context, $6.5 million seems like a lot of money, but we're getting a better level of service for less. And so it does not include things that would include the level of pothole filling that we need. I think we've talked about pothole palooza and all of that good stuff. I think we've also talked about delivering enhanced right-of-way maintenance service and things of that nature. It is currently not in the contract and is done through our maintenance fund. And so to be able, while everybody's not on the streets, this is the best time to get those potholes filled and meet the needs of our residents while we can do it without those areas being ruined. And so we are actually leveraging that. We're asking to put that money into that fund to be able to carry out those type of unfunded capital projects. And so while we may not be able to do it next year, these residents have been waiting on this stuff. I mean, that same pothole that's on Old National going towards Burdette, I done tore up 5 tires going to AAU basketball practice when I was 17 and I'm over 40. So I think if we're going to solve those problems, this is the opportune time to do it while we already have the funding and we're simply shifting it from somewhere else. I do 100% agree with you that we have to look at the budget and do a true up, but I think in my more than 40-page memo, we broke down the areas that we're going to reduce, but the areas on how we're just shifting the money somewhere else. Public safety has not been sacrificed, though. We have hired 47 new firefighters this year. I think you saw, I know you monitor all of the postings. You saw the police officer 2 certified posting went up yesterday. So we're still bringing in officers. But right now, I think Chief in his wisdom decided he has enough people matriculating through the academy right now, while transition and even training is hard, he did the certified officers so he can not only get bodies into the system, but out on the street to assist us. And I think that was a great decision by him. So I want to assure you that while there are a lot of balls in the air, we catching every last one of them and not dropping a single one on behalf of our mayor, council, and resident. I hope that answers your questions.
That answers some of them. It really would be a good idea, and this is the second time, at least the second time, might have been more, that you've compared public works in terms of the 6 million versus the 10 million. It would really, really be great if we could do a comparison, if we had something in front of us that says, this is the 6 million, this is what the county provided that had a shortfall of this, and that is why we need this over here. That would really, really be great. That's number one.
Yes,
Number two, the memo that you provided is 31 pages, not 40. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that, because I know how accurate you like to be. So that's what it is.
That's duly noted. Let's move on.
Councilmember Gilliard, before we brought Jacobs on,
it really is funny. It really is.
We provided a it was funny.
It was really funny to me too.
But we provided a PowerPoint that broke that down. And I know it's been over a year, and I'll make sure to recirculate that. And I'll actually take it and try to put it in the format of a memorandum as well, and try to get that out to you also.
That would be great.
Yes,
okay. All right. Ms. Gilliard, are you finished?
I'm really finished.
Okay, good. Mr. Reeves, you're up.
Okay, I need to be unmuted. Okay, I am unmuted. So, Mr. Donald, I just want to appreciate you and thank all the department heads for the excellent job that y'all doing during this time. I would love for our first responders to understand and know that we are with you 100%. We stand with you, we stand behind you, and daily conversations do exist behind the scenes, because we do care about the health and safety and well-being for you and your families. And to our small business owners, we also care about you because we know that you're the fabric and fiber of our communities. And we're working hard to do this. And the thing about it is, it's finding and balancing the monies that's necessarily of how we will be able to help. And Mr. Pike and, with the Economic Development Authority and put these things together with Collab South at a perfect time with these, in collaboration with the SBA, who is providing these small business loans and things of that nature. And I hope we can get a South Fulton one-on-one with the business owners who may not know about how to go through that process to get with Collab South and the SBA to walk them through that process to see how they can get loans during this time. And also, too, I would like to see a impact of Mr. Donald and Mr. Pike and Mr. Frank Milazzi to get together and see what we can offer. If the landowners that rental spaces are in, if they forego on rental for the owners, even if it's a percentage, will we be able to look at a percentage of a one-time tax abatement for them? I know that it has a significant financial impact that we're already facing. So I will see that idea to see if that can be even a process that can happen. And then also too, that the one thing that this COVID-19 exposed to not just us, but pretty much all the citizens of the city of South Fulton is the need of a hospital within this city limits.
Yes, sir.
Encourage our citizens to understand that comes with y'all filling out the census and sure that y'all count it, because that is how we will be able to advocate and get a hospital within the city limits. And again, I just want to thank y'all for a lot has been said about other things, and a lot of questions of mine have got answered as well through that conversation. And I just want to say again, thank you to all during this time period and time frame. And just know to our first responders that our prayers and our hearts are with you. And we're going to do all that we can to make sure and ensure the safety and interview.
Okay, Mr. Khalid, this is your second time around. I think most of us have had at least 2 times to conversate, but you're on now.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. So we're in this section where we're talking about the city's response. I know that we're headed to this last section about our shelter in place, so I will try and just make a segue with a comment and some questions. The comment is I don't see the governor's executive order published yet. I do have a question for our city attorney when we get to that. I'm just giving notice, not to answer now, but when we get to that section, I don't know that we can do, I'm wondering, I'm asking a legal question, if we can do more than what he will do in his executive order. But one of my concerns is about renters and people with mortgages who are not working. So I know currently the state Supreme Court has stopped all non-essential court activity through the 14th, which is the date of the date that the governor's executive order is expected to last through. And both the marshal of Fulton County and our magistrate judge have said that they will not do any evictions for renters or homeowners through the 14th. And we do not live in a self-help state, which means that no property owner can evict anyone without the assistance of the marshal. So no evictions will be happening through the 14th. I am not sure that Governor Kemp is going to, there's been some discussion that he may not include an eviction moratorium in his order. So I would like to submit a resolution, not today. I just want people to know that it's coming, sort of asking for the governor to do that. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khalid. Ms. Willis.
Yes, this will be real quick. Mr. Donald, I just asked if you did, or if you could look at, as it relates to hazard pay, offering, look at future earnings, comp time. Because if I don't know what historical means, because the pandemic is not historical. The federal government has said this is the first time that something like this has ever happened. And so things are changing daily. And so I would like to ask if you would consider looking at comp time, future earnings, because that would be, that would buy some time. If you consider offering hazard pay, and we're waiting on the federal government to reimburse us.
Yes, ma'am. We actually are looking at that. I think we have been looking at comp time. What happens though is that the leave accruals are considered a financial liability for accounting accrual purposes. So if the employee was to separate before utilizing the leave, we'd have to pay it out. And so also, you know, the employees may not find the satisfaction with a leave accrual option because they wouldn't immediately realize the benefit versus receiving a cash payment. We are looking at it though, and that's why in my letter to them, I mentioned not only hazard pay, but additional benefits. And man, as you see from today, there's a lot of work going on and we just don't have an answer yet. And so in lieu of saying no, we're just trying to figure it out. And so, yes, ma'am, we are looking at that. I think I will expand the information that I have provided to both you and those staff persons so that they understand the level of considerations. But I yes, ma'am, you're right on key. But that is where the issue is on benefit, is that it is still a financial liability for us.
Okay, thank you. And the only reason I asked that because that recommendation actually did come from some employees. So some employees are not against getting future earnings. They just want, you know, to be able to be compensated in some way for being frontline workers. And so I do understand the liability issues. And as I committed to doing, I am going to look at best practices from other cities and other throughout the region and nation. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I just want to stress
before,
it's not a no. We are looking at it, and that's one of the considerations. Yes, ma'am.
okay, before we leave this, I want to note that one of our biggest economic generators is our school system, and we were on a call along with the superintendent of schools, along with myself, Councilwoman Willis, and Councilwoman Ryle, and I just want to highlight a few things that came out of that conversation. And those two council members, if you'd like to add to it, it would be fine. One thing they talked about at that time, it was the issue of whether they would resume school, and that decision had not been made, but I see that it has been made right now. They canceled all out of district graduations. You know, we had people, especially like from Westlake, they did their graduations in Gwinnett County because of space availability. So we have canceled all out of district graduations. He's also charged the principals to come up with 2 plans for graduation, working within the regulations of the virus guidelines. There will be a robust summer school program this summer. The important question to be is that there will be no extending of the school year. And let me tell you why he does that. Number one is teachers are being paid now for working. If he was to extend the school year, then that would be a additional fiscal requirement that would have to be on the school. So they're going through the same thing that we are. They will continue remote learning for the rest of the year. So I just want to highlight those 2 things. Councilwoman Rao, do you have anything to add, or Councilwoman Willis?
No, you covered it.
Okay.
No, you covered everything. You covered everything.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry. The next item is council approval of emergency shelter in place ordinance.
Council, I hope that we can, let me first thank everybody, you know, for putting their input in on the draft ordinance to come up with something that we can live with. We know that everybody now has, even Georgia has now provided a shelter in place ordinance. I don't know about my home state, Florida. I haven't heard from them yet. Yeah. But we need to, I think it's something that we need to do. All of our organizations that we're with, GMA, U.S. Conference of Mayors, African American Mayors Association.
What screen is showing?
Huh?
Oh.
African American Mayors Association, all of us have come to an agreement that this is the thing to do. And that is the reason why I respectfully submitted this ordinance for our approval, so that we can move forward and join not only the region or the city, but join the nation in trying to stop the spread of COVID-19. I'll accept the motion.
Mayor, I would like to move to waive first read in order for us to approve this emergency shelter in place ordinance.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, Madam Attorney.
Yes, Mayor. So I would just like to clarify that because this is temporary, you're not necessarily going to have 2 reads.
Okay.
The way this will work is that you will have, ordinarily you would have 30 days for this to be in place, but the way we have worded it is that it will stay in place for 2 weeks, and that the mayor at the end of those 2 weeks will have the authority to extend it through the full 30 days.
In consultation with the county attorney, city attorney.
Yeah, consultation with the city attorney, and upon giving the council advance notice of his intent.
Right.
And so, Attorney Walker, are you saying we don't have to waive the first read when ordinance is typically required 2 reads? So this is what we talked about earlier. And
can I clarify?
Yeah.
Let her continue.
Go ahead, Attorney Walker.
So you have 2 reads when you are implementing something permanent.
Right.
You don't have 2 reads when you're implementing something that is temporary.
Right.
And because this is just a temporary action and you are not going to permanently put this in your code, you do not have to have 2 reads. But in exchange for not having 2 reads, you are limited to this only being allowed for up to 30 days.
Mhm.
So
So
right
when
now,
So when I asked you earlier, I specifically mentioned, do we have to waive the first read for the temporary ordinance? And you said correct.
no, so I'd like to clarify. I said that you should not waive the first read. So I asked you to undo the waiver. And that is because that document is different from this document in the sense that the prior ordinance is going to be a permanent change.
Right. You clarified that. You said that that was a permanent, but then I specifically said for the shelter in place, this is going to be a temporary ordinance. Do we have to waive the first read? And you said yes, correct.
Okay, Madam Attorney.
Yes,
Madam
Mayor.
Attorney, what are you opining on that we can move forward to vote on?
You can
Do I
move
need to
forward.
rescind?
You can
Hold
move
on.
forward to simply adopt the emergency ordinance.
Right.
When you have temporary items, you don't really, the first reads don't exist. So technically you can say, okay, we're going to waive first read, but because you are not going to make this a permanent change, and because you are agreeing to limit it to the 30-day limitation under your charter, you reads become obsolete.
Okay,
It's
so we
not a
can
first
actually
read,
move
second read.
forward on her existing motion then, is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
as long as for clarification, the motion is to approve the shelter in place ordinance.
And
Okay,
so,
But can I give one more comment? I
Sure.
heard the director of community, the community and regulatory department, and she indicated that, or I thought she indicated that it's not necessary to suspend permitting requirements. So if that's
yes.
the case, I would recommend that you remove that provision from this ordinance.
Discussion.
Hold on, are you finished?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, let me get down the queue. Ms. Willis, are you finished?
can the clerk repeat what I moved to? I moved to waive the first read to approve the emergency stay in place ordinance. That was my exact motion.
Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that is correct.
Is that an appropriate motion, Madam Attorney?
I'm sorry. I was coordinating with staff.
Madam Clerk, will you read back the
repeat it?
motion
I'm
to
sorry.
the attorney?
The motion was to waive the first reading and to approve the emergency ordinance.
Yeah, that's fine. So again, technically you don't need to waive, but that's fine to state it. You don't have to go through
Okay.
the problems of amending.
All right. Well, we're in discussion. Mr. Khalid, you're up.
So I want to go back to my first question for the attorney. Should our ordinance differ from whatever shelter in place the governor puts in place? So, for example, he says that liquor stores, gun stores are essential businesses, or he might say, as the governor of Florida says, that churches, that people are allowed to congregate for religious activities. In any place where our order goes beyond or restricts beyond what his order will restrict beyond, what would be the consequence of that?
Madam Attorney?
So the way that would work is anything that conflicts. If there is a conflict, then the governor's order would control. For example, right now you have liquor stores that are included as essential, but you do not have gun stores. So if the mayor's order says that gun stores are essential businesses, then at that point we would not be able to prevent them from operating. So if there's a conflict, the order will control. And to the extent they don't conflict, you have just put additional requirements in place, then your requirements would still be valid.
Okay,
And
thank
if
you.
I could clarify too, the governor, I've actually, as the governor has executed emergency orders, I've been keeping a log of what these activities are, and you don't have any restrictions that conflict to this date with respect to what you've adopted and implemented. But the governor did indicate yesterday that he planned to issue the order today. So at this point, we don't know what's in the order, but we do know that by close of business today, we anticipate some type of shelter in place order to come out. But
So where
wouldn't
we are
invalidate
silent,
your order it would only invalidate what you do right now to the extent that it conflicts.
Okay,
so where we are silent, the state prevails. Am I correct in saying that?
That's correct, Mayor.
so this is a question for the body. I don't know how to. I'm just going to go through these things, and then I'll yield the floor so people can respond. But my first is, I am curious as to why we are defining a liquor store as an essential business. That I have concerns about that. People can buy beer and wine at convenience stores, and they can buy beer and wine at grocery stores. What we do see happening nationally is an increase in aggravated assaults and domestic violence during shelter-in-place things. So I'm a little concerned about liquor stores being on the list. And then the second revision that I had that looks like it did not make it into this document was around stores that are within stores. So I would love to hear from Councilwoman Rowell on this. I know that my Walmart has both a restaurant and a barber and beauty salon in the store. And if grocery stores are exempted, I don't think that they should be exempted, but we are unclear in our ordinance as to that. And then lastly, the other thing that we're unclear about is the 10 people or more. So I do believe that particularly large medical facilities and grocery stores like a Walmart could have more than 10 people in it, whereas hotels whereas like some of these smaller places like banks, maybe they should not have. If we just say they are exempted, does that mean that 40 people can be in a bank because it's exempt? Can 40 people be in a restaurant if it's in a hotel that's exempt? So I think that we just need to be clear about those things. And
Thank you, Mr. Khalid. I think you're absolutely right. 3 good questions, and what people want to have is always clarity, and that's where the confusion comes in. So let's take the first one, and that is our liquor stores considered essential business.
Mayor, I'm trying
to go in the queue,
but I can't go in the queue because the vote is up. Can they take the vote down so people can go in the queue for discussion?
Well, I have 2 people in the queue now. Is the vote down, Madam Clerk?
No, the queue has nothing to do with the voting.
Because I'm trying to go in the queue and it's asking me to vote.
All right, I got you down, Ms. Willis.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to Ms. Gums. Go ahead.
The question I have is for our city attorney. So like small convenience store that sells, of course, milk, bread, but they also have a gas station attached. Are they considered to be the shelter in place, or are they essential? So like the little small convenience corner stores.
Yeah, so the way I have it worded is if you go to line 125, it says that a business which is not identified as an essential business under this ordinance shall not qualify as an essential business merely because it is housed inside of an essential business.
Okay.
So what that basically states is that if you do not stand as an essential business on your own, then you wouldn't qualify just because, for example, you're a Burger King or a barber shop that's in a larger essential business. So in your example, Councilwoman,
that answers Mr. Khalid's question, right?
Yes, that did answer Councilman Khalid's question. And as to your question, Councilwoman Gums, you specifically identified a convenience store. a convenience store would still be essential, because even if it was housed inside of another store, then it would still meet the definition of a
Okay.
convenience store. So the other store couldn't open unless they were also an essential business, but the convenience store could open because you have defined it currently as an essential business.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Willis, go ahead.
And so the other question that he posed to the council is, why are we making liquor stores essential businesses? Well, for one, I did have some business owners who own liquor stores reach out to me, and I put that question out on my Facebook, social media, and overwhelmingly, I got residents who came back and said they would like it to be an essential business, because it is a business where most liquor stores are not sit down businesses. They are to purchase and go. And so I think if we mandate them to not allow maybe 10 people or more in their business, it should not be a problem. Secondly, I did research, and there are several cities in the state of Georgia who have made liquor stores essential business, Savannah being one of them, New Jersey being one of them, New York being one of them, are states that made liquor stores essential businesses. And the third thing is, there is no data that can substantiate that there's an increase in domestic violence related to people purchasing alcohol from liquor stores. So we can make that assumption, but there is no statistical data that substantiates that.
Okay, Ms. Gums.
I'm back in the queue.
Yes, you're on.
Oh, I spoke already, but
Okay,
I agree with Councilwoman Willis in regards to the liquor store. I think that we don't have the data. I know Councilman Khalid just mentioned that we've seen increase in aggravated assaults, and I think on a few emails as well. But I haven't seen any confirmed data in regards to that. And I know we only have about maybe 3 to 5 liquor stores in the city of South Fulton. So I don't understand the absolute impact of closing them.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rao. Councilwoman Rao. Ask her where she is. Councilwoman Rao. Can everybody else hear me?
Yes.
Yes. She's trying to get in.
All right.
I'm here.
Okay, Ms. Councilwoman Rao, you have the floor.
I would ditto the concerns I heard Councilman Khalid raise about liquor stores being considered essential. I also see in the permitting section, we just had a discussion that we wouldn't be precluding them because we could still do it online with the new technology that has been introduced, as well as the section regarding the city council meetings that we would not necessarily cancel them during this period.
Okay. Madam Attorney. Madam Attorney.
Yes, Mayor.
This seems to be an issue that we need to either not have or have within the ordinance. Would it be appropriate that some motion be made to either amend the existing ordinance to include liquor stores as not being essential, or what are your opinion on that?
So there's 3 issues that you guys are talking about. The first is the liquor store, whether it's going to be essential. The second is whether you're going to remove the permitting. And the third is whether you're going to change the wording to where you continue to allow city meetings in their normal form, but you will just do it by teleconference. Because right now you're saying that you're not going to have any regular meeting unless you specifically call it, or not regular. So you're not going to have any meeting unless you specifically say, well, let's have a meeting on this date.
So I'm willing to take each one of those individually, and if someone would make a motion to amend or keep it in the existing ordinance, I think that would be fine. But I can start with the liquor store issue.
Well,
Mayor, I move that we keep liquor stores in our ordinance as an essential business.
And I second that.
Properly moved and second. Any further discussion?
just
Who am I talking to?
This is Councilman Khalid. Just a quick bit of discussion. There was a fourth issue of denoting which businesses we allow more than 10 people to be in.
I had that on my sheet, Mr. Khalid. I got you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's hear no further conversation. Let's vote.
Wait a minute.
Hold on, me too.
I can't see my voting thing. It's
I
not.
can't either.
Okay, what is your vote, Ms. Willis and Ms. Gisgun and Ms. Gilliard?
My vote is.
Go ahead.
My
Go ahead,
vote
Ms.
is
Gilliard.
no. My vote is no.
Catherine, no.
Catherine, no.
Councilwoman Willis, yes.
Willis, yes.
Gums, yes.
Gums, yes.
Councilman Khalid, no.
Y'all know y'all not right. Councilman Khalid, no. And I have, who else do I have?
Bart.
Councilmember Baker,
Baker.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves,
Yes, aye.
Okay, that passes. Am I correct, Madam Clerk?
yes.
Okay, what's the vote? What's the vote count?
The vote is 4-3.
4-3 to keep them essential, non-essential, right?
Right.
Okay.
To make them essential, Mayor, not
I mean, to make, I'm sorry, Madam Ms. Willis, to make them essential. Okay. All right, let's move on. The next issue was the issue of, if I'm correct, the 10 people or more, Madam Attorney.
Change the screen.
So the next issue is actually whether to remove the permitting section.
Okay,
that we
let's,
have been here.
okay.
And I think that the staff has requested that we remove it.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to remove the restriction on permitting during this period.
What does that mean? Discussion.
Excuse
It would
me,
mean that they could still take online.
we are in discussion right now. Is there, I didn't hear a second.
Yes, I second.
Okay, now we're in discussion.
I can't get to the.
Ms. Rao, you were talking.
Yeah, I was just clarifying for for Councilwoman Gilliard that it would allow them to continue the online as they discussed previously in the meeting.
Okay, Ms. Gilliard.
Yeah, that was what I wanted, the clarification.
Okay.
I really thought that I heard Ms. Reed say that citizens are actually coming in and getting permits, and it's happening online as well. So that's why I wanted the clarification.
Okay. Let's vote, please.
Wait, are we still in discussion?
Yes,
Yeah.
but I don't see
Yes.
I don't see anybody else in the queue. Who am I talking to? Mr. Baker?
This is Councilman.
Mr. Khalid, go ahead.
Mr. Reeves brought up a good point that that our city does not have a hospital. And the data is showing that we have not reached the zenith of this curve. If this is only a 2-week ordinance, I'm just saying I'm going to be voting no, because I would like to see where this curve takes us in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, right now, Mr. Khalid, for clarity, we have a motion on the floor. Would you read that motion again, Madam Clerk?
The motion is to change it to 10 people or more?
No, this is the motion for permitting. So I'm clear on what
that's
Strike
correct.
section G.
No, that's what the motion is for permitting.
Section G to omit it, lines 161 through 168.
I don't have it.
Right, Mr. Khalid.
And so, yes, I'm clear on what the motion is. I just want to clarify for people that are watching that my vote will be no for now, because this is supposed to be a 2-week ordinance, and I just want to see where we are in 2 weeks.
Okay, duly noted. I don't have anyone else in the queue. Is anyone else that I'm missing? If not, let's vote, please.
Can we restate the motion?
I made the motion, second by Councilwoman Gums.
Can you restate the motion?
Madam Clerk, would you restate the motion for the benefit of the council?
To remove section G from the ordinance.
What does G say? I don't have the
I
ordinance.
don't have it in front of me.
Permitting.
Let me stop here. Madam Attorney,
Yes, Mayor.
please clarify the section in the ordinance that we want to remove.
It's section G, permitting, and it prohibits the acceptance or issuance of licenses and permits by city staff. And it tolls the time during the period that they're prohibited.
All right. Let us vote.
Councilmember Rao. You vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Gums.
Yes.
Councilmember Willis.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliard.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Aye.
Councilmember Khalid.
No.
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay. Madam Attorney, let's go to the next item.
The next item is city meetings, and that is whether to keep the ordinance as written, which would allow teleconference meetings at city agency discretion, including the council, but it would cancel all regular meetings.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I don't understand that.
I move to cancel regular meetings and have meetings at discretion per teleconferencing.
Well, that's as written, so the motion would be to keep as written.
Okay, I move to keep the ordinance, the temporary ordinance as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, properly moved and second. Discussion. Mr. Khalid, you're in the queue.
Sorry again to be the naysayer. I wonder if we could possibly set a schedule. So like I found out about this meeting 2 days ago. I'm sorry, I found out about this meeting 2 days ago. We have this document that's 100-something pages. I was actually going to add to the document, but at the point I found out about the meeting, it was really too late. So, I mean, if we could schedule these maybe once a month, then people could propose resolutions and ordinances on a schedule. Our constituents would know that schedule, and our staff would know that schedule.
Okay, very well taken. Ms. Willis, you're in the queue again.
The only reason I'm skeptical about putting a schedule in place, because like with this pandemic, this was an unforeseen circumstance, and we don't know what's going to happen from day to day. And although we had a lot of technology challenges during the first meeting, I think this meeting by far is much better. And I just think that we should not lock ourselves into a schedule until we have more certainty of what's going to happen with the pandemic. And I think if we need to call a meeting, we've been doing a pretty good job with communicating, and either the mayor's calling meetings, or we will have to get the votes per council to call a meeting. I'm just scared about setting a schedule because we may have to change based on what the unforeseen circumstances are. And this is only temporary. The ordinance says to the 16th.
Okay. I don't see anyone else in the queue. Am I missing anybody? Okay, not seeing none. What is the motion? Is there a motion on the floor?
The motion is to leave section I in the ordinance as written.
Okay, let's vote, please.
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Khalid.
Nay.
Councilmember Reeves.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilliard.
Yes.
Councilmember Willis.
Yes.
Councilmember Gums.
Yes.
Councilmember Rao.
Yes.
Vote passes 6 to step 1.
Okay, Madam Attorney, what is our next issue?
Yes, Mayor, there was a fourth item that Councilman Khalid brought up, and I don't, could you clarify, Councilman Khalid? I know that you mentioned a fourth item.
So, and this question has come to me from a couple of shoppers and business owners. The 10-person restriction, does it cover all of the businesses? So even the businesses that are accepted, can only 10 people be in a grocery store? Can only 10 people be in a bank? Can only 10 people be in a liquor store? I think for smaller stores, I think we had them ordered like 5 through 18. Those probably should be 10 people or less. I'm not sure how practical that is at a Walmart.
Okay, Madam Attorney, you want to respond to that?
Yes, Mayor. So currently, as written, it would apply to everyone. It says the subsection is, goodness, give me, I just had it up, I'm sorry. So it's subsection G, and it relates to social distancing. And it says all public assemblages, events, and gatherings of 10 or more persons are prohibited. Now that's the current wording you have, and I'd like to clarify that the governor has also put in place a similar restriction. His is different to the extent that it says that you can't have 10 or more people if they cannot be at least more than 6 feet apart from each other at all times. So under the governor's limitation, you can have more than 10 people if at all times you keep them more than 6 feet away from each other. Your limitation is different in the sense that you were saying that if it's going to be more than 10 people, you just can't do it, period. Like you can't invite the public, the general public, if you're going to invite more than 10 of them.
And this, if I could
Madam
just,
Attorney, does that trump, will the state law trump our ordinance?
So it wouldn't necessarily trump because you're not being more restrictive.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
But you could mirror it. You could say that so it would probably be good to mirror because I think it would clarify some confusion that grocery stores may have as to whether is this applicable to us.
And
so
this this is the important thing, is that we clarity to our constituency, because those are the ones who've been confused as to what they can or cannot do. So we should seek clarity here.
So I can mirror this to what the governor has, and that would be 10 people to the extent they stay more than 6 feet apart. I think the only risk is that you may get people like church assemblages or other gatherings where, because they feel passionate about still wanting to meet, they may still hold a service, but just ensure that everyone's 6 feet apart.
Okay.
I don't think that's a substantial risk, but that's something that when I read the 6 feet restriction, I thought about. But I do think it may be good to mirror that provision to what the governor's put in place.
Well, thank you, Madam Attorney. Mr. Khalid, you still have the floor.
I was just going to say, I know this issue has come up. You know, I have these videos on my page. People are growing food in their backyard, and particularly the Home Depot is not letting more than 10 people in the store at one time, which is a huge store. I don't think that that's maybe practical for a store that size, and I do want to make sure that our store managers at Walmart know that they can have more than 10 people in their store. However, I do think that most other stores under, I don't know, 5,000 square feet or whatever should not have more than 10 people in the store. And if we did something that was a little bit more explicit, it would just provide clarity for.
No, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Including the police that will have to, enforce this.
I mean, Madam Attorney.
Yes,
Madam
Mayor.
Attorney,
So
that makes. I mean, for simplicity's sake, I think what he said lastly makes a lot of sense. could we consider the square footage of the location?
You can do that. You can consider square footage. What you can also do is, I think the only instances that you would have significant issues would be medical facilities, educational, because I know that the students are prohibited access, but administratively, you know, the teachers can still come.
All right.
So I think medical facility, medical, educational, and grocery stores, if you want to make an exemption, but
Okay.
limit that exemption to, they would still have to adhere to no more than 10 people. I mean, you would still have to recognize the 6-foot distancing restrictions.
Okay, let's hold that there and bring Ms. Gums, you're up.
No, I was just going to share a little bit of concern, especially for those larger businesses such as Walmart and Target and Kroger. And I do understand that they are also putting parameters in place as far as, you know, the shielding at the cash register, and some of them, like Home Depot, is not allowing no more than 10, but they also have the steps in place. Would that be an overreach of us as a local government if they are doing all of those measures to prevent the spread, but we're still considering them essential, especially for like grocery stores?
Well, I also add to that, Councilwoman Gums, the fact that there are some larger stores who are actually marking on the floor.
Yes.
As you come to the cash register, where you should stand in different places. So they're acknowledging the 6-foot distance.
Mayor?
But as our role as a local government, I mean, by us putting extra things in place, I mean, is that an overreach? I guess my question is to the city attorney. Would that be for them? Could they come back and sue us or something of that nature by implementing on their business, impeding on their
Madam
business?
Attorney, you want to opine on that?
So come back and sue us if can you give me like an example of what?
So, like, for instance, if Walmart is considered an essential business that can stay open, and we're limiting the amount of people that can come in at one time, but they also have parameters in place to create the social distancing, but we're, you know, venturing out and telling them you can't have no more than 10 people in your store. I get the smaller businesses, but I'm just saying, is that an overreach of government in regards to that?
Well, so you, as government officials, you do have authority and emergency purposes to exercise wider discretion. However, you still have the burden of making sure those limitations that are put on people are reasonable. So if you think it's reasonable to not give that additional leeway, then, you know, obviously we would defend it in court to the extent you felt it's reasonable. But my recommendation would be to try to carve it in a manner that you would strongly go against a judge and say, you know what, I thought this was very reasonable under the circumstance.
But Madam Attorney, you talk about that in the last couple of sections of your of the ordinance. Am I correct?
The social distancing?
No, you talk about if something seems to be, is not an intent to harm anybody. If we have to go legal, it's your last couple of, I don't have it before me, last couple of paragraphs in your ordinance.
Yes, I did put a disclaimer in there.
Right.
That is in there, Mayor.
Right. I think that because we don't want to do anything intentionally, but maybe sometimes that we do something we did not think through. I think that would cover us in terms of any legal obligations we may have. What do you think?
So I think, I mean, I do like what the governor has.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can read it to you, I just pulled up the executive order, and the way it reads from the governor is, Okay, it says no business shall allow more than 10 persons to be gathered at a single location if such gathering requires persons to stand or be seated within 6 feet of another person.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, city manager, go ahead.
I just got a
And I
quick
must go.
question.
I got some people in the queue.
I think that we can be less, I mean, we can be more strict, but I don't think you're allowed to be less strict than state
Right.
law. And so
Right.
since they don't delineate between the size of a business, they say they didn't delineate whether it's 50,000 people, I mean, a 50,000 square foot place or a 100 square foot place. They're saying that for the public, no more than 10 persons can be in a place. If we delineate from that, it means we would be less strict than them. And I think that gets us on the wrong. I'm not a lawyer, but I would think you could be more strict, but you could not be less strict.
Right.
I thought that was the rule of thumb. Is that not? Like, you can be more strict. And I think your current law says you've got 10 people in a place, and those 10 people have to be able to do social distancing. So what that would say is if it's a 100 square foot place, only one person in at a time because you can't be 6 feet apart. But if the place is a target, then you can have 10 people in there. So I think that's what your intent is. And as written, it looks like that's correct. I would defer to the city attorney, but I would be very concerned about being less strict than the governor's emergency order.
Madam Attorney, would you go ahead on the panel? I have 3 people in the queue I got to get to. Madam Attorney?
Yes, and that's correct, Mayor. Right now, we are currently interpreting this to be consistent with the governor's limitation. And I think for clarity, I think it would benefit us to advise the language to probably mirror what the governor has. And that's just because when I say we're interpreting this the way the governor interprets it, we have not prevented grocery stores from having more than 10 people in there.
Right.
We've just prevented them from having more than 10 people and then having them congregated together in groups. So we've been interpreting it as the governor has, but I think for clarity for businesses who may have questions or who may find that the language could be a little bit further clarified, I think that if we mirror what the governor has, I think that that would eliminate any confusion that people may have.
All right, Dr. Rao.
I'm in the queue.
I see you, Ms. Gilliard. Dr. Rao.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I would ask that we take the Attorney Walker's recommendation and take that first sentence under social gathering and mirror it to reflect the language in the governor's order.
Okay. Councilwoman Willis.
Yes, that was going to be my suggestion, is that to alleviate any type of litigation, we need to just stick with what the state law states. And we also need to have public safety, if possible, communicate with as a part of their community policing efforts, communicate with our grocery store chains. We could do it via email as well. I have some of their contact information, and just encourage them that if they're going to have more than 10 people in the store, that they have to keep the 6 feet social distancing requirement and mandate. They have to adhere to that. I know Wayfield is doing it. They're marking their floors. They only allow one person at the register at a time. Kroger is stated they're going to put up partitions between their cashiers and patrons. So I have not seen any measures that Publix is taking or Walmart. So we do need to make sure that we are communicating with these large retail chains, because the numbers are increasing, people are dying, and people are getting sick. This is serious. And so we need to make sure they're complying with our stay in place order guidelines.
I
All right,
second the
Miss
motion.
Gilliard, was there a motion?
Yes, it
Yes.
was.
I haven't even spoken yet.
Well, Ms. Gilliard, I'm coming to you right now. Let me get Ms. Gilliard. Go ahead, Ms. Gilliard.
Councilmember
It's the
Baker,
last speaker.
Councilmember
Huh?
Baker has his
Uh-oh.
hand.
Wait
Mayor,
a minute.
Excuse me, hold up, Ms. Gilliard. What are you saying, clerk?
Councilmember Baker evidently can't get into the queue, so he wants to speak.
Okay, this is what I'll do. Ms. Gilliard, you speak now. Councilman Baker will be the last speaker, then we'll go to a vote.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I agree that we should follow the state mandate. Now, all of the businesses in the city, I would be willing to say no, or will know that the governor is coming out with this law. And that law sort of supersedes everyone because it's the state law. So they need to abide by it. And I don't know whether or not, because I haven't read it, I don't know whether there are any exemptions for grocery stores. I do know that the grocery stores are also trying to limit people because people are rushing in food. What I saw late last night was how food is disappearing in other places and it's becoming challenging and more difficult to even get food. It might not have reached us yet, but it might be on its way. So I don't know whether we need to take this. We need to just let the state make sure that they enforce it, and somehow, maybe we can help, ask them, how can we help to do it, rather than to say we're going to do A, B, C, and D, because we really don't know, I don't think, how they are enforcing it.
Okay, Mr. Baker, and then we'll go for a vote.
Okay. I just have some concerns as well as comments to share, and I just wanted to be clear, and I just wanted to be on record as well that in the past we've had several conversations, actually countless amount of conversations about the repercussions of us over legislating, and we all know, based off what our city attorney has shared, about what the governor is about to do and how it's going to supersede us. So I'm at a loss for why we're taking this action. And I guess, according to our city attorney, the state is going to trump us, and unless we're being more restrictive. So if we're considering being more restrictive than the state, that's even more of a concern, because civil liberties are, of course, important to me. And I've been listening to what we believe or we contend one way or another of regarding what's essential. And I believe that we can only ultimately legislate the abuse. So, for example, the guns don't hurt people, but the crazy people with the guns hurt people. Liquor doesn't hurt people, but crazy people who drink liquor may end up hurting people. So it's like we can only legislate the abuse, and that legislation is already in place. So it's difficult to fathom that we're sitting here trying to decide whether or not we're going to be more restrictive than our governor is going to be in the city of South Fulton. So just for the record, that's why I will ultimately be voting nay in regard to this ordinance.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baker.
Mr. Mayor, may I,
yeah.
The chief of police has his hand raised. I don't know if I believe he has a comment.
I was going to acknowledge him after the vote. Do you want, so you want to go now?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Chief. Go ahead.
Listen, sometimes the state law, they write those state laws generic so that the local municipalities can put their own restrictions in place. I think what would be particularly problematic for our police officers is if you have a bunch of people inside of a convenience store and we go in and we engage the staff there, and the staff there says, well, I can't control people getting up on top of each other. And that becomes particularly problematic if we don't identify those businesses that have a certain square footage in them in terms of being able to enforce the ordinance. I think what becomes an issue, for us is that once we enact this ordinance, we're going to get 1,000 phone 911 calls from people saying this business isn't following this ordinance or following that ordinance, or they're not following these guidelines. And we're not putting our police officers in the best position where they could make good judgments.
Okay. The important thing for me, Chief, are you there? Chief?
Yes, I'm still here.
I understand what you're saying. I think that what we're looking for more than anything is not punishment, but compliance. But what I will say to you is that the police department is charged with being the best public service that they can be. They're charged with customer service, and I would think, and I know you will agree with me, that we must treat people with dignity. Even if we pass this, we must treat our people with dignity. And we talk about $1,000 and putting people in jail, but I think what we really want to do is to comply. Would you agree that we're headed for compliance? So I want to make sure that you convey to all the officers that this is not a reason to go in and do something crazy. We're looking to get people to comply with a situation that's very, very important, and not to use the letter of the law to actually harm people or threaten people with jail.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll set the motion. There a motion.
Is one on the floor?
One on the floor. Would you repeat the motion?
There has not been an official motion.
I didn't think it was.
Rouse made a statement. She did not make it as a motion.
Okay.
I thought she did.
Well, I move that we mirror the language in our ordinance to the language for this particular section at relative to no more than 10 people in the store and mandating 6 feet distance to the state law. Did I say that right, Attorney Walker?
Yes, to mirror the 10-foot restriction to
the state law.
10-foot restriction by the governor.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I'm just holding on for the delays. Okay, it's been properly moved and second. Let's vote.
Councilmember Rao.
Councilmember Rao.
I don't
go
know.
Ahead. Let's come back with her. Let's go ahead.
Councilmember Gums.
Yes.
Councilmember Willis.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliard.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Aye.
Councilmember Khalid.
Yes.
Councilmember Baker.
Nay.
Councilmember Rao.
She having a problem?
She must have dropped off.
But she's voting yes, it looks like.
Yeah.
She's voting yes?
Yes. She needs to be put on the conference call.
That motion is approved.
Okay, we have a comment. One of our staff raised their hand. Ms. Reeves, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Listening to the conversation, the item on the agenda that mentions permitting operations, the file that I have before me identifies permitting for section F, and I believe it was voted as section G. So I'm asking for clarity from either the clerk or the attorney to confirm what file we're looking at to ensure that it's mentioning permitting in the correct section.
Madam Attorney, would you comment on that, please?
Yes, I have the permitting as listed as section G on the agenda.
Okay, so the file that I have before me has F. So I guess the agenda item that you have before you is relative to G, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm looking at page 110 of the agenda. It lists permitting as G.
Thank you for that clarity.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
That is all of the agenda for today?
Wait, I'm sorry,
Madam
Madam
Clerk, we didn't vote. We just voted on the 5 issues. We didn't vote to approve the overall ordinance. So
I'm sorry.
I had a original, if you go back, I made an original motion to approve, to waive first read and to approve the ordinance. And so we need to, I guess I need to restate to waive first read to approve the ordinance as amended, because we made some amendments to the ordinance.
Okay. Madam Attorney?
Yes, that's correct. And I don't think you guys in the clerk could clarify, did they ever vote on the
No, they did
ordinance?
not.
Yeah, so you would just need to restate it as Councilwoman Willis stated and then have the vote on it.
Okay, she's already stated. Was there a second to it?
Yes.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. Mr. Khalid, you have something to say?
Yes, sorry, this year of law school. What date is this ordinance effective? My request would be that it would be Saturday at midnight or Sunday at midnight, so people have some notice.
Madam Attorney?
It's currently scheduled to go into effect immediately, but if you want to do another motion to agree to what the delayed effective date would be, then that's the council's discretion.
I mean, my concern is that this order will be effective immediately, and currently there are maybe a dozen people on this live. There are 99 people. There are 99 people on this call. So us and 99 people of the city will be the only people that know this is effective, versus us saying it takes effect Saturday at midnight. That would give the mayor time to do a robocall, maybe a press release, something so that people know. Even the governor's order that happens today will not take effect. He's stating that it would not take effect until Friday.
So Friday. So we're gonna go past Friday?
Yeah, I don't think we should go past Friday.
I would humbly ask, if we're telling people that they're going to have to change the way they do business, that we at least give them to the end of the business, maybe Friday at 9 p.m.
That could be fine.
I think we should be with that. I think, Mayor.
Excuse me, everybody can't talk at one time. Mr. Khalid still has to go.
I yield.
Okay, go. You yielding?
Mayor, I was addressing you.
Yes, go ahead. I mean,
yes.
Are you yielding to Miss Willis, Mr. Khalid?
No, I'm yielding to you, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Mr. Willis, go ahead.
Mayor, I would like to make a recommendation that we just stay consistent with state law.
Right.
Because we should go, we cannot see state law, so we need to stay consistent with state law. And if his order goes into effect 12 a.m. Friday, and then we need to do the same thing, because no matter what we set, state law proceeds.
Okay, Ms. Gilliard, you dropped out.
Yeah, I agree with what I was going to say, the same thing that Councilwoman Willis just said. So it makes it much simpler if we do it that way. That means that it'll go in effect the same time that the state will go into effect. We want to make sure we don't have ours in effect before then. It'll be confusing if we do.
All right, Mr. Baker.
Again, I just wanted to say, both Councilwoman Willis and Councilwoman Gilliard just stated that we cannot supersede state law. And we're about to vote now on this ordinance because we wish to be more restrictive. I'm done.
Okay. So, Madam Attorney, is the motion on the floor appropriate?
Do we have to do another amendment to Mayor? I'm addressing this to you.
Yes.
Because it is my motion on the floor. I think what attorney could opine to back me up. I think what we have to do, since we're making another amendment to the time in the ordinance, it currently states effective today. So we're going to change it effective in accordance with the state law. Then we're going to vote on that and make another amendment. because that's an amendment to the ordinance.
Madam Attorney?
Yes, so you would make the other amendment, which would be changing the effective date to Friday at midnight. And then after that, you would do the motion to approve it in its entirety.
Okay.
Okay. I move.
So I'll entertain that motion.
I move to amend the ordinance to make this entire ordinance with amendments effective in accordance with the state law, which is 12 a.m. Friday.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Let's vote, please.
12 a.m. or 12 p.m. Councilwoman.
12 a.m. start. So 12 a.m. would technically be 12. It ends Thursday. 12 a.m. means it's Friday, the next day.
Okay.
And I said in accordance with the state law. That's what the state law is doing.
Okay. Was there a second?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Cleve, you have something to say?
Just a friendly amendment. If we could leave off Friday at midnight and just say in accordance with state law. State law actually has not been created yet. We don't know what state law is yet. The ordinance, he hasn't issued the order yet.
I think that makes sense.
So I will rescind my motion, and I move that we make our entire ordinance with amendments effective in accordance with the state law.
Right.
So not necessarily in accordance with state law. It sounds like you guys are saying make it effective upon the effective date of the governor's next executive order.
Yes.
Okay, so I will move that we make our ordinance with the amendments effective upon the effective date of the governor's order.
Second.
Of his next executive order.
Next executive order.
The properly moved and second. Ms. Khalid, did I get you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's vote, please.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Nay.
What is the vote?
Mayor.
Madam Clerk, what's the vote?
Councilmember Khalid, I did not hear you.
Yes.
He
Okay,
votes
so that
yes.
passes 6-1.
Okay,
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
So Mayor, did we approve, is the ordinance approved? Because I know that was another amendment we just voted on. I just want to make sure before we move on.
Your last motion was to approve the ordinance with the changes and
Okay.
effective with the.
Right.
Thank
Exactly.
you. Thank you.
Okay,
Madam Clerk.
that is the meeting for today.
Well, actually,
God.
I do have a request that relates to this item as well as, just the pandemic. And it is for someone just out of caution to authorize myself, the clerk, city manager, and the mayor to e-sign all approved acts of the council. So that would, like, for example, this document, everything you've passed today. So if we could just put that on the record.
Okay, that's how it's fashioned anyway. On the document.
And I think it was in our admin ordinance as well.
Okay.
Question.
Does that satisfy you, Madam Attorney? You
Yes,
put that on the record.
So Councilwoman Rao, you said that in the admin ordinance we just adopted, there is e-sign authority for emergencies.
Well, I don't know that it specifically spells out emergency. It just allows for e-signatures.
Yeah. But you put it on the record and you fashioned the ordinance in that manner. So I think that's appropriate.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor,
Question.
Yes.
do you mind?
Yes. Excuse me, I can't hear everybody. Somebody needs to be muted or something.
I asked, I was addressing you, Mayor. Did
Go
you
ahead.
recognize
Go
me?
ahead. Go right ahead.
Mayor,
Yes.
for just clarification, can you please ask Chief Meadows, because our ordinance that we just passed is not more restrictive. But from my understanding, according to the solicitor, what it does do is allow for our police officers to be able to cite violators under our municipal laws. If we did not put this order in place, we would have had to cite violators under the state law.
That is true.
And so I just want to make sure that we, Mayor, that we clarify that we did not make an ordinance or pass an ordinance that's more restrictive. We're basically putting an order in place so that we can have a municipal law in place. And so when our officers go out and enforce the law, that they are able to cite municipal codes.
Okay, well, once again, Ms. Willis, I can't say it any better than you just said it, and duly noted.
It still doesn't matter.
Okay.
Mr.
Yes. No, I hear the city manager.
Mayor, I just think that since the city attorney asked for that to be put on the record and a motion to be made, I know that people thought that it may be in this document, may be in another. Out of caution, it's probably better to do it right now and just have the city authorize those folks she mentioned to be able to provide e-signatures. It's better to have it in multiple places than not to be sure of where it is.
Okay, it can't hurt anything. If someone wants to give me a motion, I will accept it.
And I put proposed language in the chat box.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept e-signatures from the city attorney, the city clerk, the mayor, and the city managers
During the pandemic.
during the pandemic.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Let's vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes.
Reeves, A.
Councilman Khalid, yes.
Baker next to.
Okay, did I hear Willis?
Yes.
Okay,
I voted yes.
that passes.
Okay. Listen, before we adjourn, let me say this. I know that.
Mr. Mayor,
What's your question, Ms. Gilliard?
you see I'm up here in the queue.
No, I don't see you.
Well, I see me.
Well, I don't see you, but go ahead.
I wanted to ask you whether or not you had the opportunity to talk to any of the other cities about whether or not they are mandating stay in place. For instance, the city of Union City, which on their website, they didn't have it, and the city of Fairburn.
Okay, they have it now. The municipal association met, and all of the mayors agreed that we would do a stay in place ordinance. Now, as I know it today, Ms. Gilliard, that everybody has done that except Palmetto. So, I mean, I have to go back and re-verify that, but that's what I know as of today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, can you send that letter? I think the problem is none of us, I know that you all met and I know you all signed an agreement, but no one on the city council has gotten a copy of that letter to this day. The only way I saw the letter is that Mayor Ingram at East Point put it on Facebook for everybody. Okay. And so can you please have your office send us a copy of that letter so we can put it?
I'll do that.
Thank you.
Tom Reed is the president of the association. I'll get him also to make sure that it gets out everywhere. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Gumbs, let me go, Ms. Gumbs, and then we'll get ready to leave. Ms. Gumbs?
No, I was receiving some information. I understand that the SBA, the Small Business Association, will be providing some information tomorrow for small businesses that may need it. If you go and visit their website, there is further information on there as well.
Okay. Before we leave, let me just say this to the constituents and citizens of South Fulton, that what we have done here today is neither nor political nor personal. We are taking steps to ensure that your quality of life remains intact and that you survive this pandemic. So we want you to know that this is not a hoorah for an election or not a hoorah for any one person politically. We're just doing our jobs as leaders, as elected leaders in this city. I know that the the council has given out kudos to a lot of people, especially in terms of our staff. But I, as mayor, want to give kudos to our city council. And number one, it's hard to make decisions like this, but I think that we have rose to the occasion where we can talk through things and come up with something that's valuable, not only to each individual district, but it's valuable for us as a city. So I want to give kudos to all 7 members of the city council for doing it. As you can see, this meeting today, that we put a draft on the table and we were able to talk through it and come out with something that we all can live with. So I would say to you all, stay healthy, stay safe. Everybody's not going to be happy. But remember this, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And I would accept the motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Thank you all so much. That carries.
Thanks, Mayor.
Did that carry, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
I didn't hear everybody, but yes.
Okay. Thank you all so much. Be
Have a
safe.
great day.
And
Thank you. Be
comply.
safe.
See you at
All right.
6 o'clock, Mayor.
All righty.
Thank you.
Closer forever.
D5100.
Insert cool tagline here.